The year is 1154, in a kingdom forgotten by most maps, but remembered in the roots of stories, lies Eldhollow. Tucked between frost-bitten hills and crooked rivers, it is a realm where power sleeps in stone towers and faith whispers from candle-lit chapels. Most live by the sunrise and die by the harvest, and the stories they leave behind are rarely written down. But listen closely. Today, you'll walk beside someone whose name may never reach the scrolls, but whose fire never went out.
I'm Elena. Welcome to Brayfield, one of the villages curled under Eldhollow's thumb. This is my morning view. Smoke, mud, and goats with attitudes. Up there, that stone hump on the hill, that's the Lord's Holdfast. Used to be a castle in the old wars. Now it's mostly moss and rumors. And that path between the wheat and the thorn trees, that's the road they used during the Purge of 42, when 5 villages vanished in a week. We don't talk about it much, but they say the earth still won't grow right where the bodies were left. See? Told you this place had stories. We peasants live in one-room homes, no glass windows, straw roofs, dirt floors, and somehow still, we manage to keep our hearts warm. And me? I'm your guide today. Stick close. The village is waking up, and if we're lucky, maybe I'll show you where history hides when no one's watching. All right, ready for something a little louder and hotter than a gossip circle? Good, because we're heading into my second home, the forge. Smells like sweat, ash, and burnt leather? Congratulations, you've officially entered my childhood. My father's already in the rhythm. Hammer, fire, hiss, repeat. He's not much for words, but every swing, that's a whole paragraph. You see that wall? Last winter, a traveling knight slammed his broken blade down right there. Claimed it snapped fighting raiders on the northern border. My father didn't blink, just took the sword, fixed it by nightfall, and said nothing. The knight left. The sword stayed. Blacksmiths in Eldhollow. We're the spine no one praises. No blacksmith, no war, no crops, no harvest. Nothing works without us. But do we get titles? Gold? Glory? Nah, we get burns and a debt record. I've asked Papa to teach me. He says the forge isn't for girls. But I'm there every day, watching, learning. And when no one's around, I practice. You know the trick? It's not strength, it's timing, and knowing exactly when the metal is ready to listen. People say fire destroys, but here, fire builds, and sometimes it remembers. That old anvil, it came from a forge that burned down during the Revolt of 29, when farmers took up sickles and torches against the tax riders. My grandfather was there, said the fire lit up the sky like judgment, and the ash never left his hands. So yeah, this isn't just iron and smoke. It's memory. It's warning. It's pride. Come on, the village green's waking up, and there's always something being whispered there. Now, this way. Try not to get distracted. The village square is basically a trap for curiosity. You've got everything here. The baker scolding kids for touching loaves, the thatcher fixing the same roof for the 3rd time this week, and folks exchanging more gossip than grain. To your left? That's the old well. Not just for water. That's where the worst secrets have been spilled. Like the time Marta swore she saw a reeve take coin from a merchant behind the chapel. Not justice, just business. Right there, by the olive stall, that's where they held the trials during the famine. They said someone was hoarding food. She denied it, right up until they tied her hands. I was small, but I remember the silence. The crowd didn't cheer, They just watched. This place is loud now, full of clatter and life. But if you listen close, sometimes you can hear what it's trying to forget. That's the chapel ahead. Looks peaceful now. Candles, stone arch. But I've heard stories of what happens behind those walls when someone questions too loudly. Old Joran, the weaver, used to ask why the tithe never fed the poor. One day he was gone. His loom was left half-threaded. Feudal law's funny like that. It doesn't shout, it just removes. But don't worry, today's quiet, safe, even. No trials, no questions, just the usual rhythm. And maybe a few lies hiding under the bread stalls. That's normal. Let's keep moving. I want to show you something just outside the village wall. It's the kind of place where truth feels a little freer. Follow me. And shh, don't step on that branch. You're not exactly subtle. We're heading just outside the village wall, to the place where the trees talk and the rules start to blur. See that cottage? The one half swallowed by ivy? That's her place. Mistress Altha, the midwife, the healer, the maybe witch, depending on who's whispering. She's got shelves of dried flowers, jars filled with roots and powders, bundles of herbs hanging from every beam. It smells like a garden got into a shouting match with a thunderstorm, and somehow they both won. Altha knows more than any priest, that's for sure. She learned from her grandmother, who learned from hers, long before chapels showed up and told us what holy meant. Back before the church burned books and called it cleansing. She treats fevers, stops bleeding, helps with childbirth, even heartbreak. No scrolls, no sermons, just leaves, timing, and trust. She's inside, doesn't even look up when I walk in, just pushes a cup of nettle tea toward me like she knew I'd be here. Long day? She asks. I nod and sip. It's bitter, but it works. She doesn't say much, but when she does, oh, you listen. You've got iron under your tongue, girl, she once told me. Use it before they dull it down to silence. She's been watched lately. I've seen it. Men near the edge of the trees, churchmen, Lord's men. They don't understand what she does, so they fear it. And around here, fear turns into fire faster than anything else. But me, I see her for what she is. Strong, soft, brilliant, dangerous in the best way. She makes people better, and that's more power than any sword or scroll. Someday I want to be like her, not just brave, but free. The sun's leaning low. That's the church's bell again. Always just loud enough to remind you who's listening. Time to head back, before someone notices I've been here. Come on, quiet now. You don't want to leave footprints they can follow. Coming back from the forest always feels like stepping into cold water. The air's different, thicker, like everyone's holding their breath and forgot why. That's the chapel bell. Evening mass. And whether you believe or not, you show up. Stone walls, wooden benches, candles lining both sides, flickering like nervous eyes. We don't sit, we kneel, on cold floors, with colder hearts. The priest, Father Rorik, is already halfway through the Psalms. No one really understands the Latin, but everyone nods like we do. The church owns more land than any lord. It marries you, buries you, and tells you what color your soul is. You owe it 1/10 of your crops, and all of your obedience. Miss a mass? It's a sin. Miss 2? It's a sentence. And if you speak too freely, they don't burn books here, they burn you. Father Rorik clears his throat, says he's received a decree from the king's steward, written on parchment, sealed in red. By order of the crown, he reads, a new tax shall be levied to fund our defense against northern raids. Defense, that's what they always call it. Defense with swords made from our father's sweat. You can feel the room change, eyes lower, shoulders stiffen. And then, my father stands. Not fast, not loud, but like stone rising through the silence. He says, and what will the king pay the smiths who forge the swords he throws into the dark? It's not a yell, it's a question, but it lands like thunder. Father Rorik's mouth tenses. The chapel holds its breath. I'm frozen. Part of me wants to pull him down. The other part wants to stand with him. But I don't move. I just watch, as my father does the one thing no one else dares. He doesn't disobey. He doesn't shout. He just refuses to disappear. Sometimes courage doesn't roar. Sometimes it just stands still, in a room full of knees. And sometimes silence isn't safety. It's surrender. That night, my father didn't win, but he didn't bow either. And for the first time, I knew who I got my fire from. Okay, last stop. Climb carefully. The roof's old and I don't feel like catching anyone tonight. This is my quiet place. No sermons, no chores, just sky. You can see the whole village from up here. The rooftops, the smoke, the chapel spire, and beyond that, the river. The stars always show up, even when the world forgets itself. Sometimes I try to count them. Sometimes I give them names. That one's mine. That little one near the crooked branch. I call it Ember. Because even if it's small, it burns. I want to tell you something. Something I haven't told anyone. I've been learning to read. Not the church scrolls, real books, stories, old pages that Altha smuggled from who knows where. She says knowledge is power. I say it's hope. Most girls in Eldhollow don't read. Most boys don't either. The church says letters belong to priests. Lords say they belong to scribes. And the rest of us? We're told to memorize prayers, but never write our own. But I do. Late at night, I trace every word like it's a doorway. Because when you can read a story, you stop being just a page in someone else's. I don't want to be a noble, or a knight, or a saint in a stained glass window. I just want to matter. To be more than a name carved into a marriage record or a death list. Maybe one day I'll cross that river. Maybe I'll find a world that fits me better. But for now, I'll learn, I'll dream, I'll keep burning. Thanks for walking with me today. You saw the bread lines, the iron sparks, the silence, the stairs, and the stars. That's more than most people ever see in a place like this.